the Inside Connection podcast powered by MediConnect. He is Lance O'Brien. I'm Sean Horn, and really important show to kick off our entire series here on CBSN Pittsburgh, where
Absolutely.
some breaking news in relation to a program that benefits a lot of people in our listening and viewing audience here today. So we're going to get into a lot of news as it relates to Medicaid and what's going on there shortly. But before we get into that, we do want to let you know who we are at MediConnect. We're the region's largest and top-rated healthcare advisory firm. We pride ourselves on being unbiased.
Yeah, I mean, our big focus is on education, right? We really want to help people understand how Medicare works. Incredibly confusing, a lot of misinformation. Your next door neighbor, your mother, your father, your family member, as much as you love them, they don't really know how Medicare works
True.
truly or
It's
what the best
true.
option for you is. So for us, it's really about helping people walk through an understanding of how Medicare works, help them set timelines, the sign up process, all the way through to making their final decisions. We work with all the major carriers. That's why we can be unbiased when we sit across the table from someone. It doesn't matter to us at the end of the day what company they choose to be their private insurance company with Medicare. What we care about is they're making the best choice for them. And we want them to make that choice. And all of it's no cost.
Ever.
It's great. We have a lot of seminars that we do, a lot of one-on-one appointments. We do yearly reviews. And again, all of it is relationally based, educational based. It's a great service for the individual client. Where can people kind of find access to what we do?
Yeah, so great question. We're very active on Facebook where you can search us at MediConnect PGH, all one word. Also, you can find this episode as well as many others when it comes to the podcast on our YouTube channel, and that is MediConnect Insurance, all one word, or you could space it out. And then we have our radio show that we're very proud of, been live on KDKA AM for the last 5 or so years now. Every
Time
single day,
flies, huh?
it does, it
Yeah.
really does. 5 years now running live every single Saturday. We're on there, and we've basically used that to launch our brand when it comes to making people aware of the fact that Medicare is an ever-changing animal, like a chameleon, if you will. And as things do happen to change with the market, we want to be here to catch all the information so that people don't have to do that homework all by themselves, because we know it's overwhelming and inundating, confusing, stressful. We hear it all the time. So we want to be here to make this as easy as possible. And usually it starts with our seminars. We have a lot of engagement that way. But, as we're getting a lot more active with all these other media outlets, it's
Right.
coming from all directions, which is a lot of fun. So yeah, you can connect with us also by calling us at 888-818-6334 or go to our website, MediConnectInsurance.com. So this Medicaid thing, we're
Yes.
coming out hot, my friend. I mean, this
Yeah.
is big news for a lot of people in our listening audience. And let's give a little backstory as to what's actually happening here.
Yeah, so I mean, we don't hear as much anymore about the pandemic and COVID, right? It kind of seems like it's in the rear view mirror, like a lot of people aren't talking about it. One of the things we do hear a lot about, though, is inflation and financial concerns and costs and all of that. So, as the pandemic really kind of ramped up and things were shutting down and there was different programs that started to bring assistance through unemployment and other things, one of the things that the federal government did is they kind of spoke to the states and they said, we need to stop reviewing people that are on Medicaid. We need to just let them stay on Medicaid during the pandemic. So you've got basically Medicare, which is what we talk a lot about, which is a federal program, and then you've got Medicaid, which is fulfilled through the states, right? So the federal government is making a mandate to the states about how they should run their Medicaid program. So basically, over the last 3 years, the amount of people on Medicaid throughout the entire country has really been growing, right? And you can imagine the stressor that could put to the system. So let's talk a little bit about what it actually is Medicaid.
So yeah, to put it as simply as we possibly can is how we like to operate Medicare Made Simple. All things we talk about, we like to, put it at elementary level. Medicaid is really financial assistance for those who, are lower income earners, if you will. So the people who, get a little bit of assistance with their housing, some grocery help, medical help, as we see a lot. That program helps provide a lot of life-sustaining elements for people who, again, are lower income. So, simply put, it's the financial assistance relating to people's lifestyle. Medicare is the healthcare. So when you have both, and we'll get into this a lot more in the next segment, but when you have both, the financial assistance is paying for the healthcare.
Right. So
Which,
they're kind of working in tandem. So it goes way beyond some of the traditional things that we think about related to Medicaid, maybe
mhm,
food stamps, WIC, some other things of that nature, which might be combined in that. Some people are familiar with CHIP, but this is really where people can have Medicare
mhm,
and they can have Medicaid.
correct.
Yeah. And then what the Medicaid does is, as you said, is it pays for or helps pick up what Medicare does not pick up from the healthcare space.
Yeah, and generally speaking, a lot of people do have a Part B premium, and we'll break all this down in later episodes of how Medicare works. But Part B usually does come at a monthly premium for most people. The Medicaid will pay for that. The Medicaid will also pay for your utilization of your insurance, as it relates to Medicare. So you're really not left with too many out of pockets when you do qualify for Medicaid, which is really why this news is, unfortunately, it's unsettling at the very least, because there's a lot of people who've really relied upon having, their healthcare paid for, during this time in history like no other, over the last 3 years. And now they got to wake up a little bit, and the market shift is going to be so different.
So traditionally, how this has worked is someone will go to their local office or they'll have a phone call with the local office. They can apply online to receive Medicaid benefits. If they're approved, right, they start down that path. And then what they have to do is every year they have to be reevaluated. They have to fill the paperwork out again to see if they still qualify. So, what happened during the pandemic is that recertification was waived. So people didn't have to basically requalify year
Uh-huh.
after year. So what we've seen happen is people have stayed on even though their income might have, because it's pretty fluid. Medicaid can be fluid. You can get qualified if your assets go up, if your income changes, right? Then you could come off of the Medicaid system,
Hmm.
right? Now we've basically seen almost 3 years of the Medicaid population growing state over state. And now the federal government has said, we release you to start redetermining people at this point in time. And the interesting thing, and why I think this is such a 911 for us here locally and across the state of Pennsylvania, is they're doing it somewhat in subsegments.
Hmm.
And Pennsylvania is set to start this process here in late March, early April.
Yeah, so not a lot of time to prepare.
No.
And you're talking a lot about the idea. Let's go by the numbers as well, as far as how many people are going to be impacted by this. In Allegheny County, it's estimated that about 12 to 15% of people who are adults are on Medicaid currently. Out in Fayette, it's 25%.
Right.
In Butler is around 12. In all the other counties that surround Pittsburgh, it's between 12 and 25% of all adults are going to be eligible, are currently eligible for Medicaid, and are going to have to go through that audit, if
Right.
you will. And the problem there, and we've seen it prior to the pandemic even taking place, where, when they send out that certification letter in order to re-up your Medicaid, if you will, a lot of the times that goes through the cracks for people who are truly eligible. So now everyone who's benefiting from the program at this very moment is going to have to actually go through that process to see if they still do qualify. And if not, here we go. The maze of Medicare and healthcare and everything else is really going to ramp up and leave a lot of people confused.
Yeah, so let's kind of walk through this. So someone is on Medicaid, they're going to get the paperwork that they need to recertify, be redetermined. They don't fill out the paperwork. What happens?
They get kicked off
Whether they would qualify or not.
with, yeah, there's, they don't chase you for that information.
Yeah, so let's talk about this because I think this is important. If you've gone 3 years without having to do something that you've done regularly, right, and you may not be really looking closely at your mail, very important. If you're listening and you are currently on Medicaid, you have to be on the lookout that you're going to be it's going to be necessary for you to fill out redetermination paperwork, right?
Yep.
And that needs to be done,
Needs to
right?
be done. And if not, like I said, you get kicked off the program. Then you send that information back, your caseworker, as well as Social Security Administration. They're going to look over all of this to see where you fall income wise in relation to the eligibility requirements. And, over the last couple of years, especially for those people who are on Social Security, over the last 2, 3 years, we've seen quite a bump in wages as it relates to Social Security. Still not enough to keep up with inflation, but it's been a sizable increase the last 2 years. And as a result, a lot of people who did qualify prior to all of this happening now, if those wages don't get increased by the state as far as who can qualify, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be without this type of assistance.
Yeah, and I mean, we've gone through two of the highest uh, rate increases with
Mm-hmm.
Social Security, which is going to impact this, right? Like those raises matter in the equation of how somebody qualifies, and they haven't had to figure that income in. So, I mean, we're talking. You kind of gave percentages across some of our local counties, but statewide, we're in the millions when it comes to people, and the country, we're in the tens of millions.
Right.
This is going to be a huge, huge impact to the state economy and ultimately to the individual's economy. So someone, and I know in the next segment, as we come back from the break here in a couple minutes, we're going to get into, so how does this intersect with Medicare, right? Because I think that's important. Most people don't realize that it really does intersect with Medicare. But how can we assist people in this process?
So the sad part is that we can't be a total umbrella for all things related to this situation, but we can absolutely help people who have questions relating to their healthcare. It's again something they haven't had a look at in a few years, and um, you know, based off your determination and your eligibility, it's very real, very real possibility that you may be cut off of the Medicaid program, and if so, you then have to enter the market, which we operate in every single day. And then, again, when we come back, we'll talk about this further. But our goal is to always get you the most comprehensive coverage for the budget that is allowable. So we'll get into a lot more of that after this break. We're going to talk a little bit more about how MediConnect can help you right now.
Medicare is confusing and a little scary.
Plan B, Part B,
HMO, PPO. I feel lost.
Whether you're just starting Medicare or currently on Medicare, you're faced with critical decisions each year. Questions like, do I need a Medicare plan? Is my current coverage still my best option? Will I still be able to see my doctors? I'm Brian Breisinger with MediConnect, the area's premier independent healthcare advisory firm. We can help avoid costly pitfalls today and in the future. We can meet with you in person or over the phone. Choose an expert in your community.
MediConnect walked us through everything.
Best of all, it didn't cost us anything.
That's right. Our licensed experts can offer unbiased advice on all of your healthcare options at no cost to you.
MediConnect is a great organization.
MediConnect, bridging the healthcare gap. For no-cost advice, call 888-818-MEDI or go to MediConnectInsurance.com.
And welcome back to the Inside Connection podcast, powered by MediConnect. Once again, he is Lance O'Brien. I am Sean Horn. And, we're talking a lot today about the fact that, Medicaid eligibility is very much on the radar for the government when it comes to making sure that there's no overspend as it relates to both Medicare and Medicaid. It's two subjects that have been dominating the headlines lately and probably will for the foreseeable future until at least the next election cycle. So, we need to talk a little bit more, however, about how Medicare and Medicaid intersect with one another.
Yeah.
And there's also a couple different levels of Medicaid eligibility. So how does this all work, Lance?
Yeah, so again, it is possible to have Medicare, right?
Mhm.
That's your federal insurance that you get, when you turn 65 generally, but you can get it earlier with qualifying disabilities, things of that nature. Medicaid is financially driven. It's all about, do you qualify, right? And that can happen at any age, essentially, right? But you can also, as you get older and you become Medicare eligible, you can also have the state assistance as well. And as we're talking about this redetermination, 3.6 million people are going to be affected by this in the state of Pennsylvania, right? They're going to have to go through this process. Huge number, right? So, but there are two different levels to Medicaid and how it intersects with Medicare.
Okay.
First one is known as partial Medicaid.
Partial
Okay.
Medicaid, okay.
Has a different income qualifying level, but if you're an individual that is on Medicare and also qualifies for partial Medicaid, what that means is your Part B premium, the standard premium that you would have to pay monthly, will be paid for by the state.
Okay.
Okay, so you see those commercials on TV with the famous actors or once famous actors and the athletes. Partial Medicaid will allow you to not have to pay the roughly $165 monthly premium for Part B.
So that's how that works. Whenever they're talking, the Joe Namath and those guys are on television talking about get your Part B premium back.
Get money back in your Social Security. Exactly, that's what they're referring to.
Okay, got it.
That's a person that has Medicare and has Medicaid.
Got it. Okay.
Now, if somebody is considered a full dual, full Medicare, full Medicaid, one, they still get their Part B premium paid for, but in addition to that, they get the costs that aren't covered by Medicare also covered. So again, without getting into great detail, Part B of Medicare, they pay for 80% of the Part B charges, which is your doctor's office, MRIs, blood work. Well, what someone that has full Medicaid and Medicare, they get those co-pays also covered. So essentially, there are people right now, full Medicare, full Medicaid, that aren't paying any out-of-pocket expenses at all for their health care. So Sean, they go through this redetermination process. And let's just start with, unfortunately, worst case scenario. They lose Medicaid status altogether. Think about the economic impact that that's going to make on them. First of all, their Social Security check is going to be decreased by $165.
Yep.
Secondly, they're now going to be responsible for the out-of-pocket healthcare costs that they're not currently paying, right? So going to be a big ripple effect because, again, as we mentioned in the last segment, there are multiple we've seen multiple increases, not your normal 1 or 2% increases to Social Security, bigger increases, right?
Yeah, almost 16% over the last 2 years.
Yes. And then the other thing is some people through the pandemic, they were getting extra money, right? And they were trying to be smart with that and save it. Well, it doesn't just determination doesn't just go off of your monthly income. It also goes off of your assets. So if they held that income to be good, put themselves in a good place financially, that could also cause them to lose their Medicaid status. Yeah, so you're shaking your head. It's a big thing, right? And there's a lot of people all across the city that are definitely going to be impacted by this. So Sean, say someone is currently has the Medicare, they have Medicaid, they've gone out and they've got what's known as a DSNP, dual special needs plan. It's a type of Medicare plan that you can get, an Advantage plan, that will not only cover the copays that we just talked about a few minutes ago, it also gives them access to dental, vision, hearing, transportation, extras that Medicare on its own nor Medicaid on its own actually cover. What can we do, or how can we help that person is now increased, or they've lost income from their Social Security, their copays are no longer being paid, and now they don't have dental, vision, hearing coverage, things of that nature?
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to determine, based off of the people who are listening now and watching now, determine based off of your needs, the type of plan that you need to access in order to get the coverage that you rely upon. And we want to make sure that you're able to do it as affordably as possible. We want you to pay as little for your coverage as you possibly can, but also get the maximum amount of benefits. And thankfully, here in Allegheny County and the surrounding communities of southwestern Pennsylvania, we're very blessed, to say it in no better way. we're blessed to live what we do because of the fact that it is such a competitive area for these health plans. So you're going to be able to find very good coverage for not very much money, thankfully. And then we'll be able to find the dental coverage, the vision, the hearing aids, over the counters. There's a lot of different items that you're going to be able to take advantage of. But if you do nothing, it's going to be a pretty painful process, both financially and then when you go to access your benefits. So um, I do want to take a step backwards, though, for just a moment and talk about the fact that when it comes to determining your eligibility for Medicaid, there's really no empathy from the government, and it's always been this way. There's no empathy for the government when it comes to you're within reason, we'll let you slide. It is very black and white based off of your income and your asset requirements on what you can have available to you in order to qualify. So if you're $1 over, you're no longer eligible.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't, the old adage, this isn't horseshoes, right? If you're close, you get points, right? This is if you're $1 over, you don't qualify.
Right.
If your assets are $5 over what they're supposed to be, you don't qualify, right? So that's the one. We can help people understand who to call and everything, but we don't have anything to do with the determination process.
Right.
Where we're really going to assist people as they start getting these letters, we want to inform you no longer qualify for Medicaid. Then they're going to have to figure out their health care aspect of things, right?
Yep.
That's really where we can help them. And again, that's why, we started off this whole podcast, say, Inside Connection, right? We care about the dollars and cents. We care about the copays. We care about the premiums. Like, we care about the prescription costs. Like,
Yeah.
we can drill down on that. And really give great information, great options, great choices. But the reason our show is what it is because we want to get to what's behind, what's driving the changes in the plans, the dollars and cents. That's why getting this information out on this topic is so important to us because, again, we've been doing this a while, both of us, and we know people get mail. They put it to the side. They don't look at it. They don't take the time to walk through the process. We've seen many people over the years lose their eligibility because they didn't actually fill out their return paperwork. We want to make sure none of that happens in this scenario. So, Sean, what's the best way for people if they're watching today? Maybe they have a family member that's on Medicare and Medicaid that they're going to talk to. What is the best way for someone in this scenario to connect with us to get our help?
Yeah, I mean, the very best way would be to call 888-818-6334. And the beauty of that, folks, is whenever you call, you talk to a live person right away. There's no prompts to push. They're not asking you 1 for English, 2 for this language. You talk to someone right away. So as long as you're calling during business hours, you'll talk to a live person who is going to connect you to one of our top-rated experts to make sure that you're getting the help that you need. And again, never at any cost. You can also go to our website, MediConnectInsurance.com. Find us on Facebook at MediConnect PGH. Again, the YouTube, which is growing as we're talking right now. You can search us by MediConnect Insurance. And then you can also listen to us on the radio each and every weekend on KDKA. 9 o'clock Saturdays, the Inside Connection radio show goes every single week. So, a lot of different formats that you can connect with us. And, this doesn't have to be so hard.
Doesn't.
When you talk about the mail coming through, I mean, that just pinged my towel real quick because of the fact that, Medicare does not make it easy by itself because you're constantly getting pummeled and inundated with mail and phone calls. And here's your statement from your last medical event that you had. And it's just so overwhelming when you go to the mailbox and, you go to the answering machine sometimes. But then now you got to deal with the social work aspect of it and, financial determinations and the state and official business when it comes to that. I mean, it's just a lot of information for someone to take in. And then, again, what I fear the most out of this whole thing, Lance, is, we're here talking about it. We'll be mentioning this constantly throughout the duration of the, switchover, if you will. There's going to still be a lot of people fall through the cracks. We see it all the time because we've helped in a lot of different markets when it comes to people who inevitably, and through no fault of their own, lose their coverage because of a plan leaving or whatever. We're there, catching people all the time. Back in 2018, the very reason we launched the radio show is because the market shift that was about to happen between UPMC and Highmark, right?
Correct.
There's a lot of people who had concerns about that. We were out there talking about it. This is another really big one.
It is a big one.
And again, 15% of Allegheny County adults are on Medicaid. That's just Allegheny County. Go out to Fayette, 25%. That's a lot of people who are going to unfortunately have to make a decision very quickly on how they move forward.
Yeah, and I think it's really important. A few minutes ago, we kind of alluded to the fact that, if they have Medicaid and Medicare, the Medicaid is paying for their copays. It's offering them dental, vision, and hearing. So, Sean, they lose that Medicaid status. Does that mean that they're going to have to pay full price? Does that mean that they're not going to have access to any dental vision? Is there things out there that can actually assist them to kind of mitigate, to lessen the blow that they might feel?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully there are, and there's plenty of options available. I mean, again, in this southwestern Pennsylvania region, we have nearly 60 options to take a look at, thankfully. But you don't want to make a call straight to the insurance company because you're going to go slide from one plan into another, and you're going to experience a big difference in the way that plan works.
All right.
You want to have the full menu available to you. I mean, so there are options available, thankfully, but you have to connect with MediConnect.
Yeah, we have to be able to walk through prescription costs, the doctors that they use, all of those different things, because all those things are going to actually come into play at this point in time. And we just want to make sure that no one wakes up one day and they're like, they go to the doctor, right? You don't have coverage. Where's your red, white, and blue card? Like, we don't want to see anybody put in a situation where they can't have peace of mind about their health care.
And as always, Lance, we're talking about subjects here that are extremely confusing and really hard to navigate. That's why MediConnect will be your guiding light throughout this entire process. So if you do have questions relating to this Medicaid situation or anything healthcare, Medicare related, that's why you're connected with MediConnect. 888-818-6334, MediConnectInsurance.com. Find us on Facebook at MediConnect PGH or on YouTube at MediConnect Insurance. Until next time, Lance O'Brien, this is Sean Horn. Thank you for joining us.